In the name of God, who is creating, redeeming, and sustaining. Amen. I am so glad that we are celebrating Maundy Thursday together in this space. The past 2 years have been filmed in my house, in my kitchen, and at my dining room table. The first year, I will admit, was pretty moving. We were all new in the pandemic, exploring different ways to bring church home. In pulling together this service from my home, I spent a lot of time remembering what it is that we did in this space on Maundy Thursday and how it made me feel. Remembering is an important faith practice. I also remembered that this service recalls the Last Supper Jesus had with some of his closest friends. So my family and I sat together and ate dinner, all on film, but with most of the conversation muted. If we had not muted the conversation at dinner that first year, you would have heard my children, preschoolers at the time, discussing the 7 plagues, Pharaoh's hard heart, and the Hebrews' escape from slavery. They were talking about these things because they attended a Jewish school. And at that school, they were doing the faithful work of remembering the Exodus story. I can still hear their tiny voices singing, "Die, die, Yenu," which means it would have been enough. God's love is always enough. At the end of the meal, we washed each other's feet, my children's favorite part of the service. And then we came back to the dinner table and shared the Holy Eucharist, each of us naming where we remembered seeing God's presence in our lives. Finally, the most poignant part for me, we cleared the table. Just as we will clear the altar later this evening, my children helped me clear everything off the table. And when I handed my son the cup of wine to take away, he peered down into it and said, "Mommy, it's just like the Red Sea." He was remembering. We blew out the candles, we turned down the lights, and then I wiped down the table, just as Sam and I had wiped down the altar the year before. Remembering all of you, remembering what we share in this space, remembering Jesus' presence with us no matter where we are. My dinner table has felt like a profoundly sacred space ever since. If there's one thing I pray you'll take away from this service, it's the ancient faith practice of remembering. Remember the story of Jesus. Remember God's love for you. Remember how Jesus shows up in our love for one another. But there's one other thing I hope you'll carry with you the rest of this service and the rest of this Holy Week, and that's Jesus' constant invitation, "Let me love you." Jesus took off his robe, he tied a towel around his waist, and he knelt down before his best friends and began to wash their feet. One of his friends, Peter, tried to resist. Peter loved Jesus so much, he couldn't imagine letting Jesus wash his dirty feet. But Jesus loved Peter so much. He insisted, "Let me love you, Peter. Let me share myself with you in this way." Now it's our turn to remember Jesus' love for us in the washing of feet and in the breaking of bread. Let God love you. Remember, and let God love you. Amen.